Whatever your opinion is about the military, it's hard to deny that they're often at the forefront of technology and weaponry. They've demonstrated in the past that they're not afraid to get creative and use their new toys in a real-world scenario either. But what the public gets to see is only the tip of the iceberg. Here's what the US military is working on behind closed doors. Allegedly, of course. Number 10. MAHEM. Magneto Hydrodynamic Explosive Munitions. That's a mouthful. As weapons improve over time, so too does armor. It's a constant battle for weapon makers to find ways to break through the enemy defense, but the US military may have come up with a unique solution. SFPs, or self-forging penetrators, are weapons mainly used to penetrate armored vehicles. They work using a chemical explosion in a metal liner that changes shape as it flies through the air. The only downside is they're difficult to use in a war zone. Well, into the US military and their Magneto Hydrodynamic Explosive Munition, or MAHEM for short. It uses a similar principle, but instead uses electromagneticism to shoot a stream of molten metal at the target. It's eerily similar to the science fiction weapons written about by Arthur C. Clarke in his book Earthlight, and the rumor has it that the Chinese have already reverse-engineered the MAHEM so that they can use it too. Number 9. Heart attack guns. After the Watergate scandal happened in the early 1970s, the Senate started looking a lot more closely at some of the more secretive projects of the CIA. Among many of their eyebrow-raising discoveries, they found that those naughty boys had been developing a so-called heart attack gun. It was a modified pistol that shot an almost undetectable but very lethal dose of shellfish toxin into its intended victim. The gun was silent and only left a pinprick smaller than a mosquito bite on its target. As for its effectiveness, it was pretty much guaranteed instant heart attack for anyone who got shot with it. Nobody knows for sure if the heart attack gun was ever used, but then, hey, how could we? Number 8. High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP. Yet another long-winded military acronym, in more ways than one, is the HAARP. Described by the Air Force as an ionospheric research complex, there have been many rumors and conspiracy theories regarding the HAARP facility in Alaska. Some people say its primary purpose was to broadcast mind control signals, while others say it's been used to control the weather. Hey, maybe that's why it's been so cold on the Upper East Side. The weather theory was given a boost in 2017 when the University of Alaska Fairbanks took over the facility and announced they wanted to create their own version of the Aurora Borealis in the Alaskan sky, leading many to believe it could actually manipulate the weather like they say it does. Even Hugo Chavez, the former president of Venezuela, has weighed in on the theories, claiming in 2010 that the high-frequency transmitter array played a role in triggering the earthquake in Haiti. Phew, he certainly created his own shockwave with that statement. Number 7. Biological weapons. The US military has supposedly tested biological weapons on its own people numerous times through the 20th and 21st centuries. For example, a US Navy ship based off the coast of San Francisco is said to have unleashed billions of microbes into the atmosphere back in 1950, resulting in a rise of illnesses in the city and possibly causing the death of one unlucky guy. In 1966, it's believed that researchers dropped light bulbs full of bacteria in the New York subway system to see how far the deadly pathogens would travel by train. Then there are the chemical clouds that have covered entire cities, supposedly as a practice smokescreen to help hide the population if another war breaks out. The military claim that these experiments are for our own good, but it seems like they're playing with fire, and one day we're all gonna get burned. Scarier still is that the scientists are now playing around with genetic engineering. If it can somehow be weaponized, it raises the possibility of entire populations being wiped out just like that. Number 6. Subliminal messaging. Even when it may seem like it's all quiet on the Western Front, the military could be having an effect on your day-to-day life. It's been more widely acknowledged that subliminal messaging is used in advertising to get us to buy more stuff, so it only makes sense that government forces are using this tactic to their advantage as well. A leaked CIA document titled The Operational Potential of Subliminal Perception was found to contain techniques to persuade a person to do something they usually wouldn't do. Like, take the life of a major politician perhaps. That's the defense that Sirhan Sirhan, the man who killed Robert Kennedy, used. The good thing is, the document itself described subliminal messaging as extremely limited. Although that was a long time ago, and techniques could have improved a lot since then. Number 5. Low-frequency microwave mind control. In 1965, when the Cold War was at its peak, the United States discovered that the Soviets had been blasting the U.S. Embassy in Moscow with extremely low-frequency, or ELF, microwave radiation. I'm not talking about the microwave you put your popcorn in either. It didn't exactly cook the people inside, but it's thought that the radiation may have affected the health or behavior of the employees working in the building. Obviously, once the United States found out about this, they started experimenting with it themselves, only they started using monkeys. Results were inconclusive, but they did end up erecting an aluminum screen around the perimeter of the embassy. I mean, it just goes to show, you never really know what invisible signals are buzzing around your head. Yeah, let me just adjust my tinfoil hat for a second. There we go. Number 4. Long-range acoustic devices. You remember the Ferguson riots back in 2014? Well, in an attempt to control the crowds, authorities used a new countermeasure. LRAD sound cannons. LRAD stands for Long-Range Acoustic Devices, and as the name implies, they can project sound over long distances. Up to 5.5 miles, in fact. So what, you may be thinking? A big speaker ain't gonna hurt nobody, right? Think again. Anyone within 330 feet, or 100 meters of its sound path, can experience serious amounts of pain all over the body. Enough to make anybody get out of the way. It also has the potential to cause irreparable damage to the ears and brain of anybody in its path. Hey, rumor has it, if you blast some Justin Bieber through it, it might work twice as good. I'm just playing. Number 3. Directed energy weapons. In addition to using sound as a weapon, other forms of energy such as that from the sun can be focused and directed towards the enemy for devastating effects. The idea isn't exactly new. As legend has it, the Greek philosopher Archimedes used a mirror to focus sunlight towards enemy ships over 2,000 years ago, causing the ships to burn and sink. Methods have moved on a bit since then, but the principle is still the same. The military now prefers to use high-energy lasers as their directed energy weapons. Some say these lasers may have played a part in the Thomas, California wildfire in 2017. As witnesses and researchers noticed that the damage on the ground was different to that usually caused by a wildfire. Houses had been destroyed, while surrounding trees remained untouched. What's more is that people reported seeing beams of light coming from the sky. And it just so happens that high-energy lasers are generally mounted to the front of planes. Number 2. Flying aircraft carriers. It's not exactly a weapon as such, but this one could certainly increase the military's reach and give them a significant advantage, especially over far distances, if they can perfect it. Flying aircraft carriers were first explored in the 1920s, when Zeppelins named the USS Akron and USS Macon were used to carry and deploy Sparrowhawk fighter planes. Unfortunately, Zeppelins weren't exactly the safest of vehicles, and both the Akron and the Macon ended up crashing into the sea. Rumors are circulating that the military are attempting to have another crack at it though. Only this time, using modified C-130 air transports to launch unmanned drones. Codenamed Project Gremlins, it will give the Air Force the element of surprise when launching drones deep into enemy territories. Hey, they may even be doing this already, but nobody knows for sure, as obviously, they'd want to keep it a secret. Number 1. THOR. And last but not least, if you thought the Marvel Cinematic Universe was complete fiction, well, yeah it is. But the US military does have a weapon called THOR. And just like the comic book hero, it can rain down lightning from above. Only replace that lightning with a 20-foot-long tungsten rod that, when fired from orbit, can penetrate the Earth's crust and produce damage equal to a nuclear blast, but without that nasty radiation. It's believed to be the most lethal non-nuclear weapon in the United States military's arsenal. If it exists, of course. And that's taken over the MOAB, or the mother of all bombs. THOR was designed by Jerry Pournelle in the 1950s and heavily considered by the Bush administration. It would cost a lot to launch satellites that needed to guide the THOR, but with $21 trillion reported to have been appropriated by the Department of Defense and others, that could be more than enough to have it started on the new project without anybody knowing. Hey, it's times like these I'm glad I'll be on the American side if things start kicking off. You tell me, you guys know of any other alleged secret weapons of other armed forces around the world? Let me hear them in the comments down below. Of course, best weapon of all is knowledge. So if you want to stay educated and have a full arsenal of facts at the ready, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications. I'm Benny Billions. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.